So much we hear about self-realization. The question arises, what is that self about which we are talking? In the Vedanta, we talk about the limited self and the unlimited self, conditioned self and the unconditioned self. Paul Brunton, who had met Ramana Maharshi and was very impressed, went back to England and wrote a book, The Wisdom of the Overself. He created a new term we call the true self, the pure self, but he used the word overself. For everybody has a sense of oneself, a sense of how good I am, how bad I am. All that put together is the self. We talk about self-esteem, we talk about self-worth. All these relate to the separate self. The self that I am identified with, in my understanding, is different from the self with which someone else is identified. So, Paul Brunton talked about the overself, above this small self. Maharshi Ramana referred to the lower self as the I thought, a very significant expression. I put together through thoughts. A thought about I, about me. And the Vedanta is never tired of saying the true self is irrespective of thought. In this 29th episode, we want to touch upon the truth which is untouched by thought. The key word we will take up in the mantra that is chosen for this episode is amanāh. Manaha means the mind, and that which has no mind, which has nothing to do with mind, with which mind has nothing to do, is amanāh. Grammatically, manaha is neuter, amanāh is masculine form. Na asti manaha yasya saha amanāh. The mindless. And we know millions of our problems are all in the mind, of the mind, on the mind, by the mind. When we are deep asleep, the mind is not functioning, or as per some Vedantis, when we are in deep sleep, there is no mind whatsoever. Pujya Swami Satchidanandendra Saraswati is of that view. There is no mind in deep sleep. And a lot of people find it hard to understand him. They are comfortable with the theory that deep sleep, there is a mind, but it is dormant. And after some time, it again rises, wakes up. So that is because they are so used to thinking of a continuity. Continuity in what? Continuity in time. What time? Which time? The time that is a reality for them in the waking state. Having raised that, let me say one more sentence. Swami Satchidanandendra Saraswati looks at time as perceived in the waking state as limited to waking state only. When you are in dream, that time is different. And in deep sleep, there is no time at all. Let's not go into it. But this mantra simply says, your true nature, even now in the waking state, has no mind and nothing to do with mind. All these are very important in the Vedanta study. All these shake up our usual knowledge rooted in ignorance, even though 100 statements are made about the mind being unreal. Mind is a myth. Some collections of dialogues with U.G. Krishnamurti as put together by what is Mahesh Bhatt, the filmmaker of Bollywood. The title of that book was Mind is a Myth. That means there is no real mind. Whereas generally we give tremendous importance to the mind. For us, the mind is everything. Call it mind, call it intellect, call it heart. When you say, I am hurt, enlightened people say, tell me again, who is hurt? And you say again, I am hurt. The enlightened people say, isn't it your mind that is hurt? And we get puzzled. Yeah, the mind is hurt, but I am the mind. When the mind is hurt, I am hurt. That is called false identification. Let's plunge into the selected mantra. In Mundaka Upanishad, quite a learned Vedic scholar called Shaunaka approaches an enlightened, self-realized rishi called Angirasa. Let's go and see a bit of his slides. Okay. Know the Upanishads, class 29, March 6, 2026, both in the West and in India. It is March 6, morning in the West and late evening in the East. So, first we present 1/4 of the mantra, aprāno amanāh shubhrah. That is the third quarter of the 4 quarters in the mantra. For in this session, we are especially interested in opening the significance of that one word in this part, amanāh. What do you mean by we actually are free of the mind? Of course, when you take the well-known illustration of Advaita Vedanta, rope and snake, the rope doesn't have even an iota of snake in it. The entire snake is projected upon the rope. Maybe evening after evening, for a whole year, people passing by a certain path mistook a rope lying on the side to be a snake. Even for 365 days, hundreds of people thought there is a snake, but we are safe, we are at a good distance, and proceeded, went ahead. The question is, did a real snake come over the rope at all? Even for a minute? Was there a real snake upon the rope which was misunderstood to be a snake? The answer is no. Advaita Vedanta thus, though hard to absorb, hard to digest for many people, upon deeper inquiry, upon being guided by right teachers, and we have plenty of very, very illustrious teachers in the tradition from time immemorial, before even Adi Shankaracharya, then Adi Shankara and his disciples, and in different parts of India, various saints and sages upheld Advaita in different parts, different states, north and south, east and west, and even in the 20th century, Ramana Maharshi. Towards the end of the 20th century, Vivekananda went around the world. He established Advaita Ashrama. He established Vedanta Society, Ramakrishna Mission. Then in the 21st century, you had Swami Chinmayananda. And numbers are large, examples are many. This Advaita, when properly understood, is mind-blowing. And in this session, we are talking about truth which is beyond the mind. And I am trying to share with you a line from the original Upanishads which supports that view that we, in our spiritual essence, are untouched by the mind and whatever happens to the mind, in the mind. Sorrow, jealousy, depression, low self-worth, feeling on top of the world, all kinds of opposites, a wide range, not only about things of the world, but about that is more important in spirituality, about ourselves. So I'm never tired of quoting Ramana Maharshi. If anybody took a problem to him, was he not asking, first tell me who has this problem? Because Ramana looks at the visitor also as pure Satchit Ananda. But the visitor is babbling, blabbering. The visitor is blabbering. I am suffering, I am in deep sorrow. Ever since my house went up in flames, ever since I lost my only daughter, I have no peace of mind. Help us, Swami, he cries, or she cries. But Maharshi, as an example of those galaxy of enlightened teachers, sees it's not bookish knowledge. He has a drishti, he has an insight, he has an understanding which is confirmed in his own mind. The understanding takes place in the mind, which dismisses the reality of the mind. That is another interesting part of it. Manasa eva midam aptavyam, says Kathopanishad. It's through the mind you realize what? You realize that you are not the mind. What happens to the mind do not mean anything to you. So, amanāh. This mantra also uses the expression aprānaha. In fact, whatever you and I are attached to is labeled by Vedanta as simply unreal. Can you imagine somebody waking up from a dream? In the dream, let us say he was awarded Padma Shri. And he wakes up and finds that he is not really a Padma Shri. Indian government did not give him a Padma Shri. And for 2 hours he cries. Can you imagine that? Any sensible person just forgets it. In fact, he may laugh at it. He may over breakfast say to his wife, you know what? At least in dream I got a Padma Shri, and he sips some coffee laughingly. Who will worry about a Padma Shri that came or that went in your dream? Like that, Maharshi Ramana would say, who has this problem? And the visitor says, I have the problem. And what do you mean by I? Find out who you are. Presently, the I, that is the basis for a whole lot of notions of success or failure, meaningful life or meaningless life. For even many rich people, many so-called accomplished people, towards the end of their life, say, I got everything, but I am yet to find certain meaning in life. They have enough to eat, enough to wear, bungalows and palatial houses to live in, and they are respected in the society. But they themselves feel, what is ultimately the meaning in life? Because they remain attached in spite of all those accomplishments, awards, trophies, and accolades. They remain attached to that thought created idea of I am this personality who was honored over there, who missed one or two medals but got many others. So thought goes on describing them, and the descriptions put forth by thought become the basis. And Maharshi says that whole bundle of thoughts is a mere appearance upon the real you, like the entire snake is a mere appearance upon the rope, which actually is. So the first slide talks about the third pada of the mantra, Angirasa speaking to Shaunaka, aprāno hi amanāh shubhrah. Your true nature, shubhrah, is ever pure, and aprānaha, I translated it as untouched by the limitations of your energy. Even scholars get very perturbed if one morning they find they feel very weak. They are not able to walk quickly. Their hands, they are not able to move so easily as before. They know they crossed their 80th birthday and they have tons of knowledge, Vedanta knowledge in their heads, but they feel scared. What's happening to me? I'm feeling weak. Vedanta says that is what is happening to the prana. And you have nothing to give or take. Nothing to give to prana, nothing to take from prana. Vedanta thus is very hard to understand. Vedanta doesn't say don't go to the doctor. Whether you go to the doctor or do not go to the doctor, whether the energy level rises next day or goes further down, all that is okay in a certain context. But you actually don't have to worry about it. So very hard. Therefore, many people keep Vedanta at a distance. They say that is impractical. However, we therefore say, when guided properly, when you attend the Vedanta classes and slowly you scratch the surface, go deeper into the real nuts and bolts of Vedanta, because otherwise, most people, even those who attend some Vedanta classes, know the popular statements, know some, glamorous statements. Transcend, rise above your body and mind, and know your ever free nature. They feel good to hear that, but they don't have clarity how it can be. Therefore, proper Shravana, listening to good teachers is important, and then proper Manana. So, limitations of energy levels applies to the prana, and you will have an insight awakening in you where you see for yourself. You are not the prana. You are seeing yourself in a mirror and you don't know where from the stone came. A stone came and broke the mirror, let us say. And that image which you were a minute ago admiring, perhaps you are wearing a new shirt and pants, and you are looking at the mirror and say, I really look good. I made a good choice. Very nice shirt, very nice pants. I look good, etc. Then somebody throw a stone and whole image is gone. Of course, you don't like to see a mirror gone, but tell me, has anything happened to you? Likewise, leave aside illustrations and illustrations. The truth pointed to by the illustrations becomes convincing revelation to you in Shravana. And in Manana, further doubts are removed, and then you smoothly glide into meditation. Swami Chinmayananji never gave too much importance to meditation, and when asked, he used to say, study the Vedanta when there is clarity of seeing what the truth is. Meditation happens, he would say. Meditation would happen. The meditation that happens on its own in a beautiful insight, understanding, following, learning from teachers, that is genuine meditation. A whole lot of other meditations in this world give certain benefits. Your health may improve, you may feel less stressed in daily life, your physiological functions and many medical terms they use, everything improves. But deep inside you, you will continue to think that you are a certain individual entity. Vedanta dismisses that sense of individuality, the wonder of wonders. Though in the eyes of others you are moving about like anybody else, taking bath, eating, sleeping, and so on. You may even have a child or two. However, you know how you feel inside, how relieved, how relaxed, how fearless you are. You will know. Second one mentioned in the first slide itself is untouched by mental impurities. That is the liberal translation I have gone for the word amanāh. We'll elaborate on this. Angirasa declares to Shaunaka, who is himself a scholar, but his scholarship was more in Veda Purva, not Vedanta. Veda Purva is very bulky for that matter. Veda Purva is vast. And Veda Purva, in a manner of saying, is equivalent to all the sciences of today's world. Veda Purva, that is Vedas minus Upanishads, is Veda Purva. Because Upanishads are called Vedanta. So Veda Purva in those days had unbelievable amount of knowledge of the universe, of possibilities of our own rise, our own growing to greater heights on the scale of consciousness. It is believed, though many people don't believe it, that's a different issue. But many people who have been introduced to certain mysteries of the Vedic wisdom, who are also familiar with modern sciences, technology, and so on, they believe that Gurukulas those days taught so many sciences, and apparently some of those sciences had a different approach to gain knowledge. In meditation, they would have discoveries. I have quoted this before also in some classes. Annie Besant and Leadbeater, in their meditation as they were performing in Theosophical Society, had envisioned certain molecular structures. And they had not gone to proper classes of chemistry in any university. All the same, they both together wrote a book called Astral or what is it called? Occult Chemistry. There's a book if you look for it. And it was a couple of decades later that modern chemistry discovered the molecular structure of water and some other molecules which have just 2 or 3 atoms. And when they compared it with what Annie Besant and Leadbeater, who were leaders of Theosophical Society, in whose company and under whose tutelage J. Krishnamurti grew up, what they had discovered to a great extent tallied. Likewise, Ramanujacharya, in his meditation, came out with a certain global map of the entire earth. It's available, so sometime I'll show it in one of these slides. And when you first look at it, it looks like a cat and another cow or something. What is this? How can this be the map of the world? Interestingly, you rotate it 180 degrees, then you will see Asia, North America, South America, etc., a little bit distorted. The continents of today's world, the map, pretty much resembles. Therefore, we are emboldened to say that the Vedas are not just the mantras and reciting them and then how to perform some rituals. They are superficial. Vedic wisdom, which hopefully will be revived and effort is on at various places, if it's revived, then that would be an alternative route to gain spectacular insights into how the world works also. Then, of course, how you work. The whole mantra here goes, Angirasa says to Shaunaka, Divyo Hemurta Purushaha. The truth of your existence, your true I, at many places in different Upanishads, is called Purusha. This Purusha, this true self of yours, is divine, Divya, Amurta. Please don't bind it, don't limit it in any particular form. It is formless. And it includes outer and inner. Sa means Saha. Sabhahyabhyantaraha. We're going to see what Shankaracharya gives as meanings to these words in the next slide. Ajaha, unborn. Our mind is so conditioned to birth and death, start and end, growing and decaying and losing and winning. We are so dipped in the phenomenal universe. But Vedanta, which is called metaphysics at times, opens our eyes to something above the phenomenal universe. Aprānaha, amanāh, we explained already. Shubhrah, it's ever pure. The dream example makes matters easy to understand. Imagine you are going most innocently walking on a road, and to your bad luck, some housewife from her 4th floor of an apartment complex, thinking it is morning, 5:30, nobody is on the road, and she didn't have much civic sense also, let us say. Who cares? She pours a bucket full of some garbage onto the road, as unfortunately some people do even now in certain countries, including India, though otherwise India has surged ahead a lot. and it falls on you, all that garbage. It is such a humiliating, uncomfortable, unenviable experience, and you are so shaken. That is when you wake up and you find it was a dream. Now, isn't it true, though it was such a terrible dream which really agitated you, it took a few seconds for you to regain normalcy, but now you know that entire thing did not happen at all. You remain shubhrah. You may even look at your body. Is there a little of garbage on me? And then you laugh. Why am I checking? Knowing well it was a dream. Is there a need at all to check? But some of us may, if we are so shaken by the bad dream, even though we know it was a dream, we a little bit check. Nothing has happened to me. It was a dream. And we laugh. Shubhraha. These examples and illustrations don't prove anything, but they make the point being made a bit more understandable. So the real matter is we are actually unaffected by what happens to the body or the mind. Aksharat parataparaha. In the philosophical systems, this universe that is manifest has behind and beneath it a certain principle called avyakta, the unmanifest. That unmanifest is a dynamic entity. Every time it expresses, it may express in numerous ways. Then again, it merges back to its unmanifest, avyakta condition. That avyakta also is called in many scriptural contexts, scriptural portions, akshara. This very Mundaka Upanishad uses the word akshara primarily for that ultimate truth. But let us hasten to add, the word akshara, literally meaning imperishable, is applied to not the ultimate truth, but the unmanifest cause of the manifest effect. You may wonder, what is all this? They should reserve one word for only one thing. It never happens anywhere in any subject. In geography, suppose you say Moscow, there are many Moscows in this world. Moscow of Russia is only one of many. In the USA, there is a Moscow, there is a Delhi, there is a Salem, Salem, which is, as you know, a city in Tamil Nadu also, Salem. There are so many, and within USA, there are several towns of the same name. Birmingham in Michigan, Birmingham in, what is that, Mississippi or somewhere. Birmingham, maybe in that Bill Clinton state, on Arkansas or somewhere. There are many Birminghams, and the original Birmingham is in England. So really speaking, they should stop with that Birmingham of England. But people from England, as you know, went first to this USA. Then people from all other European states, then non-European states, and they're from everywhere. So with maybe some nostalgia about the original Birmingham somewhere in United Kingdom, they named this city Birmingham, that city Birmingham. So don't say Vedanta alone has this confusion. It's not confusion. You need to know America more than you. When somebody says, my daughter is studying in Birmingham, you will ask her, which Birmingham? She in Michigan? Then say, no, my daughter is in Alabama. Oh, okay. No, Alabama, Birmingham. Oh, yeah. Right. So with knowledge of America, you will not have confusion. With knowledge of Vedas, knowledge of Vedanta, not too much, some amount of knowledge, you know. You all are students of Gita. In Bhagavad Gita itself, in 15th chapter, Sri Krishna says, Dvavimau Purushau Loke Ksharascha Akshara Evacha. There are two Purushas, two philosophical principles. One is Akshara, other is Kshara. There also, mind you, check with 15th chapter. That akshara there, in contrast to kshara, the imperishable in contrast to the perishable, is not the ultimate. Very next shloka, he says, Uttama Purushastvanyaha. The chapter is called Purushottama Yoga. So there are three levels. Kshara, bottom, Akshara, middle, and Uttama Purusha is the top there, in that terminology. Last example, though you may not need it, but I am known for giving more examples than what is needed. You hear captain. The word captain in the army is of a certain rank, and in Indian Navy it is of another rank. They are not equivalent. At least in the armed forces, which are known for discipline and order and system, they should have made captain of Navy and captain of army equivalent. No, maybe they came from centuries ago from the British. So, aksharat parataparaha, let it not confuse you. The supreme truth that you and I are, that is what Advaita says, is above akshara, where akshara is not the ultimate truth, it is the unmanifest, avyakta tattva. Whereas Mundaka Upanishad in earlier portion, that is paravidya by which akshara is known. Over there, akshara is the ultimate truth. Now, quickly we will see how Shankara explains. Divyaha Dyotanavan. Divya means full of light. Bhashyakara elaborates. It is light of consciousness. Again, we are so accustomed to the light of the phenomenal world, but in the Vedanta, that which helps you know is light. That which makes possible knowledge is light. So, in many of these words, we are helped to negate the false. That is the higher technique in the teaching of Vedanta. Negate the false, truth will be yours. Say amurtaha, murta is negated. Sarva murti varjitaha. Purushaha, purnaha. Though on the surface it doesn't look like negational. Purushaha, purna means whole. What is whole? Which has no boundaries. So negation, no boundaries, no limitations. You can't call anything as being outside this Purusha. Purusha includes all. Then it is Purna. Sabhahyabhyantaraha. Outside, inside. So that there's a little picture I'm showing here. A man is sitting in some kind of an enclosure and is wondering where I am, puzzled and confused. We often find ourselves in such situations. Vedanta comes to our rescue. Practical Vedanta is nothing but principles of Vedanta rightly understood, straight away translate to practice. What do you mean by translating to practice? You can overcome sorrow, you can overcome fear, you can overcome depression, you can overcome hundreds of notions where you feel I am not good, I have lost. Why is my life like this? Why are everybody else enjoying and I'm holed up here in this small place? Vedanta says all this is a play of the mind. And a proper study of Vedanta will give you an insight into the truth of that. Even though you may be in a jail, like Nelson Mandela had to spend time, or Veer Savarkar had to spend time, Mandela in South Africa, in an island to the south of the mainland, and Veer Savarkar, as you know, in the so-called cellular jail of Andaman Nicobar. Sometimes such a thing may happen to any of us. But Vedanta says, really, if you have digested Vedanta, externalities do not matter at all, they do not influence your happiness. Hard to gulp down, but stay patient. Ajaha na jayate. Shankara gives a logical explanation. Only when there is something other than this, which could be the source, then this truth could be born. In order to be born, there has to be janma nimitta, as written here. Ajasya janma nimittasya abhavat. There is no other thing. Advaita means one and only one. Acharya Shankara gives an analogy. How a bubble has birth. And we said before, whenever something has a birth, necessarily there has to be something second which causes this birth. I am born 1967, somebody says. Did you have a father or mother? Can you ask? You have to have a father, you have to have a mother. So Shankaracharya gives the air, bubble on water. There is water, and because of air, these bubbles are formed. Vayvadihi jalabudbudadehe yatha nimittam. Tata brahmanaha yadi kinchit nimittam syat. If there were a cause, if there was something other than Brahman, maybe that would tickle Brahman and Brahman would then come into being, or tickle something else from which some Brahman would come. In a non-dual scenario, birth and death are simply meaningless. You can't conceive. The Shankaracharya gives a touch of pure logic. That is where you will move from popular Vedanta to sincerely appreciated Vedanta. You appreciate how it is possible. And then comes a stage when you are convinced, and when there is the conviction in you that body dying is not my death. 100 people calling me names doesn't mean anything to me, not out of arrogance. Vedanta is not about increasing your arrogance. Many people misunderstand Vedanta, which says Aham Brahmasmi, right? Yeah, they look at this Advaita Vedanta. The students are told you are Brahman, and you can imagine the result. They'll all become so arrogant, so proud of themselves, conceited. Sorry. What actually happens in real Vedanta is both your conceit, pride at being somebody, and your sadness about not being anybody, about being low or whatever, both of them vanish. You will realize that there is a certain expansive, all-pervasive truth, and that truth alone is, what about I? I am also that truth. I am also that truth. That Brahma, I also am. Because other than Brahma, there is nothing. In devotional language, they say God alone is. Therefore, if I scratch my head, it is God who is scratching his head, appearing in this form. That's what Advaita says. God is appearing as me, God is appearing as a healthy man, a sick woman, everything. So Shankaracharya takes us to a more logically tenable understanding. Then we have aprānaha क्रियाशक्ति भेदवान चलनात्मकः वायुः यत्र नास्ति. Prana is associated with chalana, movement. And we already explained. When you say one day, today I don't know, high energy. I feel like jumping. I feel I'm 2 inches above ground. I don't know. Some other day, especially when people get older, uh, I think we'll cancel our going to the movie. The wife says to the husband, or the husband says to the wife, let's not go to that party which we only were very keen to get invited. We moved heaven and earth to get invited. When parties are held, there are always 2 or 3 members who are not invited. But when they come to know 3 4 days before they do something, then an invitation comes. Because they're so eager to go. But on the day, if they are an old couple, On the day when they have worked towards getting invited, that party is, oh, we will ask for a video of that program and something. This is energy movement, energy levels, and it is necessarily related to Kriya Shakti. Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti. Kriya Shakti comes under prana. Now our main topic, amanāh. And Sri Shankaracharya says, manaha is that phenomenon where Jnana Shakti, Aneka Jnana Shakti Vedavat. What is manaha? That which has so many kinds of knowledge. Outer knowledge, inner knowledge, knowledge of various subjects, and various opinions about everything. Tat manaha api avidyamanam yasmin. You are that in which that mind simply isn't. It isn't. It doesn't show up there. How come? But I have a mind. Wake up, wake up. Spend at least a few minutes silently in a day. Study a little bit. Think a little bit. If you find you have a very disturbed mind, a restless mind, or a creative mind, all kinds of mind, you have so many notions, they all have validity in a frame of reference, which is actually a matter of subjective perception. Therefore, the science of Vedanta is rightly called the science of all sciences. It's way above everything else. Aprāno, amanāh, shubhrah. So we gave a picture of a river with pure flowing waters, pure water, no industrial waste, no other forms of pollution over there. It's an illustration. Last but not the least, we said already, aksharat paratap paraha. Akshara itself is para, the unmanifest. So there is a manifest, vyakta, unmanifest, avyakta. And the ultimate truth is subtler than both vyakta and avyakta. Therefore, paratap paraha. In a certain context, we call the unmanifest itself as the greatest. Like it happens in life. In a small village, the head of the village is big shot. Go travel a little bit, then district head. When I lived in Varanasi, someone advised me. I was a little bit into some administration also there. Sir, you are in Varanasi, you are in Uttar Pradesh, please know that you must, moment you have some land and you have some properties, institution, you must always keep 3 persons in good humor. And the way that Pandey told me was interesting. He said, PM, CM and DM. So what are they? Prime Minister at the national level, Chief Minister at the Uttar Pradesh state level, and you are in Varanasi. Varanasi district has a DM, district magistrate. I think in south, some places they call it collector. So PM, CM and DM. But what about the world scenario? That he did not cover. The world scenario, there are other big shots who are especially known for, they are big shots because the destruction they cause is more, it's big destruction. So bigger the destruction, you are considered bigger in this mad world. Terrible. Yesterday, an Iranian warship, of course, was flowing by Sri Lankan waters. And not from above or not from surface. From below, a torpedo hit it and it completely got destroyed. That's the news. Then, Palki Sharma reports, legal dimensions are in their own place, but there are moral dimensions, she says. Sri Lanka and India, those waters are somewhat, India is a bigger country there. Some communication, At least after it was destroyed, America could have given a message to Prime Minister Narendra Modi and to government of Sri Lanka. Maybe Iran and US are in war, therefore it's a warship. It's not a commercial ship. Some slight apology. She was right. Palki Sharma, one of the wonderful reporters of such things, she says, and she begins her news reporting, 2 minutes report. Sometimes, as all of you know, she says, life is not only about legal side, there is also a moral side. And before she concludes, she rightly says, I believe I didn't know that. When you destroy an enemy ship, uh, there's a moral side to it. You got to see they're subdued, they're conquered, but some people are struggling for life. You got to save them. You got to put them in prison. You got to care for just the mere human side of it. This elaboration she doesn't do, but she says there are some international laws how to treat people who survive. Some care for the survivors. You accomplished your goal. The warship is gone. No threat anymore to you. But people are in the water. A few people, that's how I understood her. Anyway, so PM is highest in some eyes, but world level also there are greater powers. Same way, avyakta and then avyaktat aksharat parataha paraha. Parataha means compared with this para, there is another greater para. Para means higher. So let me conclude here. All such discussion, all this deliberation, all such kind of applying our thought to Vedanta teachings, actually don't think it is too much theory, it is too much philosophy. We want, so you want a shortcut self-realization. Really, there is no shortcut. Actually, that doesn't mean you must get lost in books and books. No, no. But you have to work a little hard. You have to find your way to the crux of the matter without drawing false comfort with just some fancy terms and some fancy dress and some fancy, externalities. Nobody is asking you to become a professor in some university. But you got to, if you want to know who you are, you have to take some essentials and be clear about what those essentials imply. And in order to make those essential teachings of Vedanta become clear to you, some philosophical terms come very handy. Every subject, any subject, unless you are a born genius, you have carried for something. Srinivasa Ramanujan didn't have to go through number of classes on algebra or geometry or trigonometry or calculus or all that. He did very little, I guess. And that is exceptions prove the rule. But you and I will have to study so many subjects, exercise our mind. Then at a certain point, we put it aside and do some fresh thinking. And we may, yeah, why not? We may even disprove some law which has been accepted for 100 years. We may say there's a problem in this law. It's possible. But for us to arrive there, you have to work hard. Therefore, I quote once more Swami Paramarthananji, who always says Vedanta is about certain systematic, sustained study from some competent teachers with no glamour about it, with no noise about it, with no show about it. All that we're not asking for. We're not asking you to go for a big show, but study properly, engage certain teachers in some meaningful discussions, then your perception changes about how you see yourself, how you see the world. For that to change, please don't settle too early for some shortcuts. Then you will deceive yourself. Om Namah Shivaya. Okay.